Welcome to the Home Team, the show where no matter who you root for, here you're a part of the Home Team. I am doing an instant reaction following Thursday Night Football, where the Cleveland Browns defeated the Pittsburgh Steelers 24-19. I got this one wrong in my predictions, but I was right that it would be a close game. Now, I'm going to take this from each team's perspective here, and we'll start with the winning team, the Cleveland Browns. I would say that the headliner here is Myles Garrett. 3 sacks in the first half. Didn't have any more sacks in the second half, but was certainly still impactful. Had a big hit on Russell Wilson on one occasion, and then he had a couple other pressures that forced a quick throw. And even though he wasn't necessarily getting the sack, his impact was still felt. Defensively on the whole, I think they played pretty well. Snow games are always odd, I guess, but I think we all love them. We haven't had a true snow game in quite a while, so that was a pleasure to watch, at least for me. Defensively, they played pretty well. They had a couple opportunities where, like I said, the Steelers would have chances for big plays, but it seemed like a couple times they either took them at inopportune moments, or I can think of one or two where they just seemed to lose the ball in the snowstorm. They just couldn't track it, and I can't necessarily blame them. Hell, when I would watch the kicks on the screen, they'd kick the ball, and I would just be like, no idea where it went. Just gotta wait for the official to go yay or nay. So I don't blame them for that, but they had their opportunities against the Browns defense, but they didn't really capitalize. And as a result, the rest of the time, the Browns defense played really solid. Did a great job stopping the run. This goes for both teams, really. Neither team really got off in the run game very much, which in a weather game is not super surprising. You'd rather that these teams have to put it in the air than be able to just run it. So both the Steelers and the Browns really teed off on the opponent's run game. But the Browns also just did opportune things. They forced a fumble on Najee Harris. I think it's his first of the year, is what they said. So not often. Doesn't happen very often. As far as Jameis Winston goes and the overall performance of the offense, about what you would expect. He had a couple plays in there that were really, really good and shows you why he went first overall all those years ago. But he also had a few plays in there where he got a little reckless and dangerous. Dante Jackson got a pick near the end of the game that I think probably should have sealed the game, but the Steelers offense did some stuff that we'll discuss when we get to them. But ultimately, when it counted the most, Jameis Winston drove them down the field, scored a touchdown, took the lead, and the Browns win. Some of his better plays of the night, I feel like, were just dropped. David Njoku dropped a touchdown pass right away. And then, it was right in his hands. He just bobbled it, and Patrick Queen came in and was able to knock it out on the bobble. And then the backup tight end also dropped one where Jameis, the play went a little longer than it's supposed to, a little bit out of structure, throws it right to the guy who the Steelers just lost in coverage, and he just stone hands, dropped it right away. I think that those were plays that were really impressive. I do think the Steelers also gave up a couple opportunities to pick him off, and they would have greatly benefited from those. One of them, two of them I can think of in particular were near the end of the game. And one of them was Jameis throws it into the middle. There's two guys there. First guy breaks it up. It bounces up into the air. A lot of the times that becomes a pick. But the second guy in this instance was tackling the receiver at that point, and so nobody's around to actually pick it off. But a lot of times those balls that get tipped up in the air, those become picks, and I think that the Steelers really could use that. And the other one was 31, the rookie corner for the Steelers. He had a chance to pick one off. He broke up the pass, but it just looked odd in terms of just live watching it. It looked like he was. His feet were just in a weird place. He was facing the other way. He was almost shuffling and not really in a normal coverage pattern. And I think had he had a great shot at the pick because he would have been able to get his head and his feet in the right place, but it just didn't happen. Pass got broken up, but it was a dangerous one. And I think that those are sort of the plays that saved Jameis Winston's night. He made a couple really good plays. Jerry Jeudy, in particular, had some good plays in there. David Njoku did make up for the drop touchdown by catching a 2-point conversion, which was a tougher catch, granted, so good for him. And overall, the Browns' offense was fine. Nick Chubb got 2 touchdowns, despite not really averaging a lot in terms of yards per carry or just normal rushing production. But as I said, with the snow game thing or any weather game, these teams are going to tee off in the run game. Not super surprising that he would have a slower night. But 2 touchdowns, including the one that put the Browns ahead at the very end. So that's great for Nick Chubb. And as a Nick Chubb fantasy owner, 2 touchdowns is much appreciated. What else is there for the Browns? I think that just about covers it for them. They go from, being out of the playoffs to still being out of the playoffs on the whole. I think it shows that overall, while they may not be in it necessarily, they could play spoiler to anybody. And I think that this is a valuable reminder to any team out there that just because a team has a bad record does not mean that they can't beat you. And to any fan, just because the other team has a bad record does not mean that they can't beat your team. So it's a nice reminder in humility. However, division games are brutal always, especially in the AFC North. They always play close, and every team seems to have a kryptonite in that division. For the Ravens, it's the Steelers. For the Bengals, it's the Browns. For the Steelers, it's the Browns. And for the Browns, it's the Ravens. Like, there's just a couple teams where they all struggle with each other, essentially. It's always tough. It's always hard-nosed. And even though Cleveland is probably going to come up in the basement of that division, they're still very tough and still have some very good players. As for the Steelers, obviously a disappointing one, though I don't think they have anybody to blame but themselves for this one. To start off the game, Boswell misses the field goal. Not great. Obviously, weather was going to be a factor in this game, so I don't know exactly how much the winds were swirling. It looked like it drifted pretty hard, but I don't know exactly if that was he hit it weird and it hooked or if the wind took it. But either way, 3 points off the board right there. There was a couple other times where they got onto the Browns side of the field. They could have gone for field goals. They instead go for it on 4th down, and they turn the ball over on downs. I believe they did that twice. And that gets into a greater issue that we'll get to once I finish essentially just recapping the Steelers' night. And then as they go, they manage to, get some more points on the board, get another field goal. The Browns go out ahead of them by, I believe, was it 8 or 9 points. And they manage to come back. They force a fumble on Jameis. They take the lead. And then they immediately decide to, do something that I thought was going to end the game, which is they get the ball back. Again, they force a fumble. No, I think the pick was next, actually. It was something in that sequence where they get the ball back essentially with the chance to close the game out on the Browns. And they once again come up short in 3rd and 4th and manageable. And this is something that bothered me the whole night with the Steelers. So, 3rd and 4 to essentially win the game, right? Everybody in the NFL has really good plays that can get you 4 yards, right? So what is the Steelers' best play to get 4 yards? A go ball up the sideline, which is a pass that was like, oh, it's a 50-50 ball. That is a less than 50% chance of you coming down with that pass, especially in this weather where they're already struggling to track the ball. I think that was just an atrocious I don't know if that was Russ's decision or if that was the first read on the play. Either way, I think that was an atrocious choice. There's a million ways to get 4 yards. Put your dudes in a stack, send 2 of them up the field, and let one guy sort of dance underneath until he gets to 4 yards and just sit it down. The other things about the Steelers when they got on 4th down in particular that cost them points. 4th and 1, and they're like, we're going to line up in the eye and run it straight downhill. Cool, I get the concept. However, they did it out of like this really tight formation, this really heavy formation. So the Browns have their heavy guys in there. Everybody else is in the box too because you've lined everybody else up there, and they never get close. I am really sick of seeing teams do this where you have every opportunity to get, again, 1 yard. This should be automatic, guys. Like, if you really want to run the ball on 3rd and 4th and 1, I am more of the mindset of spread them out, get as many bodies out of there as you can, and then hammer them for 1 yard. When you give them the opportunity to get every big human being they have in there, and then all the other guys also are close to fill in and reinforce, you're asking for trouble, especially when they're already expecting run. If you did that and then play action past it, maybe I could forgive you, but it's like, man, that's a brutal, brutal choice. And I just got really frustrated with the Steelers' clutch time and situational decisions, especially offensively. And I think ultimately that's where this game was lost. Defensively, they played fine. They gave them one extra opportunity at the end, but frankly, I thought their offense should have closed it out before that. I thought their offense had other opportunities to close it out before that. They also struggled to score in the red zone once again, having to settle for a lot of kicks and then the turnovers on downs. And they just struggled in crucial situations, and that's really the story of the game. I don't think that, as far as the Steelers go, my faith in them isn't necessarily shaken. Every team loses games, and like I said, AFC North opponents, they all play hard, they all play similar, and in a lot of ways, it's just sort of who had the edge on the night. And tonight it was the Browns. So for the Steelers, it's disappointing because Baltimore gets to sort of close the gap on them. And now, if you're a Steelers fan, you just got to hope Baltimore loses, and I think they will. I don't know about this weekend, but Baltimore will lose games. So Steelers just got to finish strong. They obviously have a really tough stretch for the rest of the way. And I think that they're going to have a hell of a time pulling this division out, but they're certainly capable of it. And overall, I think it was a great game. We got a snow game, hard fought, went down to the very, very end. And I think that unless you're a Steelers fan and a Browns fan, you got to just enjoy the game. So I hope everybody had a great night. I'll break this down a little bit more in depth when I break down all the games from the weekend, and I'll preview the rest of the games this weekend here in the coming days. So thanks so much for tuning in. Hit like, hit subscribe. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Peace.